our dear student. How is it going today? Which is the best and a good and to be a good healthy. Let's start with unit 3 in a science subject that talking about the atmosphere. What is the atmosphere? We know from the previous some information of the previous lessons that the atmosphere is some of gases. Okay, let's start with lesson 1, the gas of oxygen. The gas of oxygen. In the beginning of the lesson, we must know the definition of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is a mixture of gases surrounding the Earth. Mixture of gases surrounded the Earth and attracted to it by the effect of gravitational force. We know that from the previous lesson in lesson 1 and unit 1 that mass and weight. From the weight we know the gravitational force, that is a force by it we can it attracted the body towards to it. The gravitational force on the Earth is bigger than the gravitational force on the moon or any planet. So the atmosphere, considered it is a mixture of gases surrounded the Earth and attracted to it by the effect of the gravitational force. Okay, what are the components of the atmosphere? What are the components of the atmosphere? The components of the atmosphere are nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, and other gases. The percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere is 78%, oxygen 21%, but the percentage of the other gases like carbon dioxide, water vapor, and helium, neon, water vapor, and other gases is 1%. Again, what are the components of the atmosphere? We know that the atmosphere it is a mixture of some gases of like nitrogen, oxygen, and other gases. The percentage of nitrogen is 78%, oxygen 21%, and the carbon dioxide 1%. And other gases. Other gases like water vapor and argon, neon, helium, الinner gas or noble gases. So from this picture, I can conclude that the percentage of nitrogen is huge. It's the biggest percentage in the atmosphere, that equals 78%. Oxygen 21%, and carbon dioxide, other gases 1%. Okay. What is the importance of these gases or the atmosphere? What is the importance of the atmosphere? The atmosphere, according that the atmosphere consists of some gases or mixture of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, other gas. These gases have function to our Earth, to our planet. What are these functions? Number one, it protects the Earth by absorbing the harmful ultraviolet rays comes from outer space. What means this statement? That means the atmosphere protect the Earth. How? By absorbing the harmful ultraviolet. Harmful ultraviolet that come from the outer space, the atmosphere absorbing it. So prevent it to reach the Earth. Number two, it adjusts the temperature of Earth's surface. What's the meaning of adjust? Adjusts meaning balance. meaning equilibrium, meaning stable, keep it, adjust, equal in its meaning, like balance it, or equilibrium, or keep in. It adjusts or balances the temperature of Earth's surface without any effect. Number one, it protects the Earth by absorbing the harmful ultraviolet rays comes from outer space. Number two, it adjusts the temperature of Earth's surface. Number three, particles of pollutants in the atmosphere are very useful. We know that the atmosphere consists of some pollutant particles that come from the smoking of the factories, the smoking of the cars, wherever. These particles of pollutants is very important to us. Why? Because they help in the condensation of water vapor and falling of rains or snow. If you remember what's the meaning of condensation, it is a process that liquid convert or change into water vapor. Water vapor change into gas. Like when we see some of droplets in the cold weather, in the winter season, we saw some droplets on the glass of the car in the cold weather. Why? Because the condensation process take place or happened. Okay, condensation mean water vapor equal gas change into liquid equal water. So it helps in condensation of water vapor that found in the air and falling of rains or snow. Change the water vapor in the air, in the atmosphere, to rains or snow. Okay. What is the chemical structure of oxygen gas? Oxygen gas consists of two atoms of oxygen that has formula NO2. It's easy to understand it. Okay. Oxygen exists in the atmosphere in gas state. We can feel oxygen, or we know that oxygen exists that means found in the atmosphere in gas state. Okay. How can we take oxygen gas? The source of oxygen gas. The main source of oxygen gas on the earth is the green plants. We can feel oxygen in our respiration process. We take oxygen from the air and get out carbon dioxide in exhalation process. So the main source of oxygen gas on earth is green plants. Oxygen is produced during photosynthesis process. We studied it, yes. We studied it in grade 4 that photosynthesis process, in this process, plant take carbon dioxide and light and water and minerals from the soil and mix it together on the surface of the leaves, and during the leaves we can obtain the oxygen and the food of plants, starch or sugar. So the main source of oxygen gas on the earth is green plants. Oxygen is produced during photosynthesis process. In photosynthesis process, plants take carbon dioxide gas from the air, water and mineral salts from the soil, and produced sunlight to produce oxygen gas and nutrients, or sugar uh, and starch. That is a food of plant. Percentage of oxygen gas. Oxygen represents 21% of the air volume, about one-fifth of the atmosphere. About one-fifth of the atmosphere. The major percent of gases in the atmosphere is nitrogen, 78. But oxygen represents 21% of the air volume, about one-fifth of the atmosphere. Let's know it by this test or by this activity. What do you need in this activity? A glass basin, a graduate cylinder, and a candle and colored water. What should you do? Fix a lighted candle inside a basin like this in the picture, and containing this basin, consists of or containing the colored water. Okay, how can I know the percentage of carbon dioxide, of oxygen gas in the air? Let's again to understand this point. If we use a candle, light candle like this, and if we use a light candle like this, and a cylinder, okay, and cover the cylinder, cover the light candle with a cylinder, what will we observe? You will observe that the light candle will put off. What happened? Put off the lightning candle, that is a sign that the volume or the presence of oxygen inside the cylinder is ended, is consumed. Because if the oxygen still found in the cylinder, inside the cylinder, the candle still lightning, but the lightning of candle is ended, put off. That means it consumed all oxygen inside the cylinder, and the colored water will raised in this point. That means this point, if we measured it, equal the 1/5 of the volume of it inside the cylinder. Okay? Okay. That means the oxygen, the percentage of oxygen or the volume of oxygen inside the cylinder, 1/5. 1/5 of all volume. Okay. In another slide, we will observe that important question. Okay, the ratio. Let's pay attention to this question, and if you know to ask it in the class or anytime, why I can answer you. The ratio of oxygen gas is a fixed ratio in the atmosphere. Ratio mean percentage. Although it consumed during respiration and burning and oxidation, why it is stable? Why the ratio of oxygen gas is stable, fixed? Because it is compensation of by green plants during photosynthesis process. Compensation mean take it in continuously shape. Take it in continuously shape. Or green plants produced oxygen in a continuously way. Do the photosynthesis process is ended? No. Plants do photosynthesis process continuously. Okay, how can we prepare, how can we how can we preparing the oxygen in the laboratory? We can put some of solid material like manganese, like manganese oxide, and put hydrogen peroxide like this. What will we observe? What will we observe? We will observe that, and in another side, we attend a basin consists of water and cylinder or any glass tube covered the open of this tube that connected with a funnel. So, what happened in this activity? What will you observe? We observed that some bubbles of oxygen will collected at the top of the glass tube. Again, some of bubbles will collected at the top of test tube or the top of glass tube. What will conclusion from that? We will conclusion that these bubbles are oxygen gas, will collected by displacement water to, downwards it. Displacement water downwards it. Miss, I can't understand. That mean hydrogen peroxide with solid or mean solid material like manganese oxide. Manganese oxide. We can write manganese oxide. Manganese oxide put at the bottom of this funnel and this tube and connected with it with a water basin and cover the open of this tube with a glass test tube. What will we observe? We will observe that bubbles will collected at the top of the tube. That means these bubbles are oxygen gas. Why at the top of the tube? That means we collected oxygen gas by displacement the water downwards it. Why? Why we collected oxygen gas by displacement water downwards it? By displacement downwards water. Why? Because oxygen can't dissolve in water. Particles of oxygen gas can't dissolve in water. So we collected it by what? By displacement downwards water. Displacement downwards water. Okay, what is the function of the manganese oxide? What is the function of manganese oxide? We can write manganese oxide. We can write it like this. manganese oxide. This material is manganese oxide. Okay, how can what is the function of manganese oxide? This function or this material react this material react as this material react as a catalyst in this reaction. I can't understand. Like this, manganese dioxide, manganese dioxide react as a catalyst. What's the meaning of catalyst, miss? Catalyst, it is a chemical substance used to speed up the chemical reaction without any change in its quantity or its structure. Again, manganese dioxide react as a catalyst. What is the function of manganese dioxide in this activity? Manganese dioxide react as a catalyst. What's the meaning of catalyst? Catalyst is it is a chemical substance that used to speed up the chemical reaction without a change in its quantity or its structure. Again, catalyst, it is a chemical substance used to speed up the chemical reactions without any change in its quantity or its structure. Like hydrogen peroxide, in the presence of manganese dioxide as a catalyst, speed up the reaction without change in quantity and structure, give us water and oxygen. Give us water and oxygen. What is the properties of oxygen? The properties of oxygen from its preparation, properties of oxygen from its preparation, okay, from its preparation is 1. Can't dissolve in water. Can't or slightly soluble in water. So we collect it by displacement downwards water. By displacement downwards water. Oxygen is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Remember these properties, and when we take another carbon dioxide or nitrogen, we can comparison with the properties of oxygen. Number 1, oxygen is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas. Oxygen is slightly heavier than air. Slightly, what's the meaning of slightly? Rarely or heavier than air. Oxygen air is slightly soluble in water. Slightly soluble in water, so we can collect the bubbles of oxygen gas when we displacement downwards water. Oxygen is a neutral gas. Neutral gas. It is not acidic or basic. Not acidic or basic. Oxygen relights a glowing split. This is the test for oxygen. We will take a test of it after some minutes. Oxygen is a very reactive element. It combines with other elements to form oxides. Combines with other elements to form oxide. Let's study any properties of oxygen clearly in details of it. Number 1, Oxygen scarcely or slightly dissolve or soluble in water. How can I understand it? Invert one of the cylinder full of oxygen gas in a basin full of water. What will you observe? We observe that oxygen is collected by downward displacement of water. Downward displacement of water, because it's scarcely soluble in water or hard to soluble in water. So we can collect it by, yes, by displacement or downward displacement of water. We know that the heavier thing take its place again, the heavier thing like um, oxygen displace or take the place of water by displace downward it. By displace downward it. I wish to understand this point because this point need more practical way to understand. Okay, put a glowing splint in a cylinder of oxygen like this. Cylinder full of oxygen, and put a glowing splint or lightning splint. What will we observe? Splint glows more and more again and again in a cylinder filled with oxygen. That means oxygen help in burning. That means oxygen help in burning. So when the consuming of oxygen take place, the splint of the glowing will end. The glowing will end. But if the cylinder containing oxygen will help in burning the splint. This is number 2. Number 3. Glowing of a splint is still burning in the lower cylinder only. That means what? Candle under glass fire experiment like this. Candle still lightning. That means oxygen heavier than air. Air will enter to the cylinder containing oxygen, help in what? Help in glowing the or burning the candle. So oxygen is heavier than air. So oxygen replace or take place of the air. We know that the heavy thing or the heavier thing take the place of it. Take the place of it. Okay. Wet some nails with water and keep them for several days in a humid air. What will we observe? Like nails, that iron nails are covered with a reddish brown layer of rust or take place corrosion. That means is a layer well formed on a surface of the iron. That means the iron react with oxygen air in a humid state. Or again, what will you observe when some nails exposed to the humid air? Humid air means moisture air, water and oxygen. That iron nails are covered with a layer, this layer called a reddish brown layer or corrosion or rusting. That means these materials or iron react with the oxygen air in a humid state and became, yes, corrosion or a layer of rust will form on it. Okay, just some reminder of properties of oxygen. Number 1, colorless, odorless, and tasteless. We can know any color of oxygen and any odor. and any test. Scarcely heavier than air, that means replace air and still splinting or splinting of the glowing candle. Number 3, oxygen is slightly soluble in water, so we can collect it, the bubbles of it, at the top of the glass test tube by collecting it at the top. So yes, downward displacement water. Okay. React with the oxygen air. Some materials react with the oxygen air and some layers formed on its surface. Direct combination of oxygen with elements. Oxygen with elements mean element oxide. Oxygen with elements mean element oxide. There are two types of direct combination. Number 1, oxidation. If you remember the question that I asked you, that why the rate of oxygen is still stable after using oxygen in oxidation and respiration and burning, and we said that due to the compensation way that we take oxygen from the photosynthesis process from the green plant. Okay, there are two types of the combination of oxygen. Number 1, oxidation. Number 2, combustion or burning. Combustion or burning. Oxidation. Oxidation, it is a slow combination of oxygen with elements. Slow combination of oxygen with elements in the presence of water. Moist medium. Moist medium. Again, oxidation, slow combination of oxygen with element. Slow combination of oxygen with element. In the presence of water, humid air, or moist medium. What its effect? It causes erosion and damage of the ironware. It causes erosion and damage of the ironware, like this. Ironware. Ironware has to be isolated by painting. Ironware has to be isolated by painting to be protected from rusting, like iron rust. For example of oxidation, iron rust. From its name, oxidation means combination with the oxygen air. Element combination with the oxygen air. This process is a slow process, slow combination, in a presence of moist medium or presence of water. What its effect? Layer, it causes erosion and damage of the ironware, so the layer were formed on its surface. To protect it from erosion or rusting, we isolated it by painting to be protected from rusting. By painting to be protected from rusting. Number 2 of combination, combustion or burning. Combustion or burning. It is a rapid combustion, rapid combination of oxygen with elements, and it produced heat and light. This process, this combination differs from the oxidation. Oxidation, the result of oxidation is erosion or rusting, like ironware. But it is about combustion or burning. It is a rapid combination, rapid combustion of oxygen with elements, and it produced heat and light. Like what? The mass of the objects increased after the combustion. Like what? Like the burning of the candle. Give us heat and light. Fires give us heat and light. Its effect, the mass of the object increase after combustion. Okay, let's understand that combustion process or burning process, it is a rapid combination of oxygen with elements, and it produces heat and light. Its effect, the mass of the object increases after the combustion. Why? Because it is a new substance will form. So this substance, its weight is larger than the substance before burning. Like burning of a piece of cleansing wire. Burning of a piece of cleansing wire. Does the mass of a metals increases after combination with oxygen? Let's understand this point. When we measure the mass of cleansing wire before and after exposed to the humid air, we will observe that the mass will increase due to react with oxygen air and form oxygen oxide. So, because of the new substance will form like oxygen oxide, or element oxide, that means cleansing wire burns with a flame. Cleansing wire burns with a flame. Because it has a much greater surface, which increases its reaction with oxygen. Again, to understand this point. Does the mass of materials increase after combination with oxygen? Yes, because there is a new substance will form it after exposed to the humid air. Let's observe it in cleansing wire. Cleansing wire that we wash the dishes in the kitchen at home, because it has a much greater surface area, which increases its reaction with oxygen. During combustion process, a compound is formed known as iron oxide, which increases the mass of a steel wool. Again, the cleansing wire, according that the cleansing wire burns with a fire or a flame. Cleansing wire, this wire, we used it to wash the dishes. This, after burning it, it became a much greater weight or much greater surface area, which increased its reaction with oxygen. During the combustion process, a compound is formed. A compound after burning it is formed, known as iron oxide. Iron oxide. That means iron oxide, its weight is increasing, or its weight is greater than the mass of a steel wool. Understand it? It's difficult to understand? Okay, let's repeat it again. When in the presence of cleansing wire and burning it, after burning it, after combustion, after burning it, new substance will form it. This new substance called iron oxide. This substance is greater than the cleansing wire without burning. The cleansing wire without burning is smaller than in its weight about cleansing wire after burning. Okay. Importance and uses of oxygen. Importance and uses of oxygen. Water. Water is formed by combination between oxygen and hydrogen. Combination between oxygen and hydrogen. Water molecule consists of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atoms. So it's very important oxygen in water molecule. 2. Oxygen is essential for respiration. Oxygen is essential for respiration and food burning process to produce energy for other biological vital process. So oxygen is very important for respiration and food burning to give us energy. Oxygen is mixed with acetylene gas. Oxygen is mixed with acetylene gas to form oxyacetylene flame. Oxyacetylene flame. Again, oxygen mixed with acetylene gas. What is the acetylene gas? This gas is very important to melting or welding the iron or hard metals. Acetylene gas with oxygen formed oxyacetylene flame. This it's degree 3,500 degrees Celsius. That is hot enough to melt metals. What is the substance that melting metals? Oxyacetylene. Oxyacetylene formed after combination oxygen with acetylene. So it's used in welding and cutting melting metals. Welding and cutting metals. Okay. The ozone molecule. The ozone molecule is formed by the combination of 3 oxygen atoms and forms a layer in the atmosphere called the ozone layer. What is the importance of the ozone layer that consists of 3 oxygen atoms? The ozone layer to protect Earth like this, to protect Earth from harmful rays that coming from the sun. Sun give or sun exist the harmful rays. These rays we protect from it by ozone layer. So ozone layer protect the Earth from the harmful rays that coming from the sun. It is one of the importance oxygen. Oxygen gas compressed inside the iron cylinders for different uses. We know the iron cylinders that oxygen gas compressed inside it and used in diving underwater, during surgical operations, artificial respiration that suffering from difficulty in respiration. Again, oxygen gas compressed inside the iron cylinders for different uses. Diving underwater, during surgical operations, and artificial respiration that suffering from difficulty in respiration. Mountain climbers use oxygen because it is heavier than air, so it decreases as we raise above the Earth's surface. So the amount of oxygen at the top of the mountain is lesser than the amount of oxygen on the surface of the ground. When we're raising up far away from the Earth, the percentage of oxygen or the amount of oxygen will decrease. Why? Because of oxygen is heavier than air. Oxygen heavier than air. So at the top of the mountain, the amount of oxygen is lesser than the amount of oxygen on the surface of the Earth. So the mountain climbers use these oxygen cylinders to breathing during it, to breathing through it, because of there is no oxygen at the top of the mountain. Why? Because the oxygen is heavier than air. Oxygen is heavier than air. Okay, I wish to understand this. I wish that you understood this lesson, and wish you to be good. Uh, let's see you in another or in the next lesson, and we will together understand this curriculum and hope to be good. Let's tell goodbye and wish to understood this lesson, answer the question in worksheet, and meet you in another time in the next lesson. Goodbye.